So I don't claim that cannabis is going to cure me or that it's cured me, but it's
Right.
certainly, helped me in too many ways to even to mention, For me, at this point, it's more probably about the mental stuff and the biggest hurdles and everything. It was the cancers. I look back at my journey has been the mental side.
Welcome to the Well with Cannabis podcast, a show dedicated to telling the life-changing stories of those who live well with cannabis, all while teaching you how to do the same. Meet your host, Emily Kyle, a registered dietitian nutritionist turned certified holistic cannabis practitioner. Emily changed her life for the better with the help of the cannabis plant, and now she is committed to helping others do the same. Tune in each week to hear heartwarming stories and gain the knowledge you need to feel connected, inspired, and supported on your own cannabis journey. Whether you're a new cannabis consumer or a lifetime lover, you'll benefit from these uplifting tales of real-life journeys that will show you how you too can live your best life well with cannabis.
Before we jump into today's episode, I wanted to share a note on potentially sensitive content. The episodes on the Well with Cannabis podcast are created for adult audiences only. We will at times cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to suicide, abuse, mental illness, sex, drugs, alcohol, psychedelics, and the obvious use of plant medicine. Explicit language may be used occasionally. Please refrain from watching or listening to the show if you're likely to be offended or adversely impacted by any of these topics. The information on this show is for informational and educational purposes only. It does not constitute medical advice. If any of the content on this podcast has brought up anything for you, please reach out or speak to a professional or someone you trust. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Well with Cannabis podcast. And I'm very excited to welcome a special guest here with us today. We have Jeff, who is going to talk about his really crazy journey with cannabis. Jeff, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Emily. It's nice to be here with you.
Thank you so much. Now, you have a lot to talk about when it comes to your health in cannabis. Can you give us a little background about how this all got started?
Well, I'm 60 years old now, and I started out using cannabis back in the 70s, and kind of continued it through my school years. Not a heavy user, didn't really get in the way of anything, just kind of grew up with some older kids in the neighborhood, and that was my first exposure. And then once I got to be a professional person in my 20s or so, I didn't really use cannabis. I didn't have anything against it. I was just busy working guy.
Okay.
And then everything kind of changed when I got to be in my mid 40s, late 40s particular, and I developed leukemia.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I didn't need treatment right away. When I was diagnosed, I think I was about 3 years before I started treatment.
Wow.
And
did you feel unwell? How did you get diagnosed?
I felt a lump in my neck.
Okay.
And I went and had it biopsied, and it came back with B-cell lymphoma. So, and my blood was just a little off then, but it wasn't really, really bad. And then over time, it just accumulated and to the point where I got pretty cytopenic and was anemic and thrombocytopenic, low platelets, no hemoglobin, low, very low. But anyway, I knew I was close to treatment. If anything, I was overdue. And I read about Rick Simpson oil.
Yes,
I thought,
that's how so many people
I thought,
get
what the
started.
hell? I'm gonna give it a try. And I got a big old bag of garden variety hay, trim, got the rice cooker out. I didn't do the ISP, the isopropyl. I did do Everclear.
Perfect. That's what I do too.
It wasn't super strong. Anyway, I did that. I made probably about 40 grams, probably got like a 20% yield because I didn't do any filtering. And then I started doing the little rice thing, and didn't really notice anything. It was really hard to kind of consume it. It just stick to my teeth or my tongue.
Yeah.
And but I did that for like 2 months.
What was it like? Did you notice any difference? Did you feel different? How did that go?
No, I really didn't. I think I thought I felt better and everything, but I mean, I was pretty pretty deep. My expectations were a little bit high, but what I wanted to get to was that I had a really bad experience. So I
Yeah.
take this I heat it up with a blow dryer, I'd put a little chunk under my roof of my mouth, and it'd kind of sit there. And sometimes it'd be there till noon or most of the day. And then eventually it just kind of like disappeared. But then on this one particular occasion, I went out to lunch with my son, he was a little guy then, my youngest, and I swallowed that little piece that was stuck to my mouth. And a
Mhm.
few hours later, I
Oh,
was just so out of it, I couldn't drive home. I just said,
oh
"Hey, we're going to
gosh.
hang out here." So that was kind of the end of the RSO,
Yeah. Yep.
and I get a friend saw me uptown, drove me home. My wife got
Oh,
involved.
that's
It didn't end
nice.
good, but
Yeah, no, it's a terrible for anybody listening. If you accidentally consume too much THC, you feel unwell. You don't feel well. Probably was the best decision not to drive home. I'm glad it all ended well.
yeah, but I wasn't scared or anything. I had known
Right.
I'd used enough cannabis earlier in my life that I knew that it was, I just needed to hang tight for a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that kind of ended that. And then fast forward a couple years, and I started a clinical research trial for chemotherapy. They didn't have much except the standard stuff here in my hometown. So I elected to drive about 7 hours.
Wow.
So for almost 2 years,
Oh my
every 30
gosh.
to every 28 days, my wife and I would drive up.
Mm.
And it was in Oregon.
Okay.
And of course, Oregon had, there was cannabis shops everywhere.
Yeah.
Kind of a different place up there. But when I started taking these chemotherapy drugs, I didn't really realize all of the pre-meds they gave you and all the stuff they jack you up so that you didn't have reactions to these drugs, which I had.
Oh,
But after a while, I got kind of used to it, and it wasn't so bad, and it became more of a lot of anxiety.
yeah.
Um, leading up to those days, and
I
in
can't
my
imagine.
arms, and I didn't have
Oh,
a port, and it was just very, it was kind of like I don't know. In the first couple deals, the first couple sessions were, I felt like everybody was taking care of me, and um, but eventually it set in, and it was just awful.
mm.
And so what I did is I bought some of that, stopped at a shop, and I also bought a little Pax. I don't know if people are familiar with a Pax, but it's a flower vaporizer, and it has a little oven. And they're really nice little tools. They're pretty expensive.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and I do that pretty heavy before I'd go, like in the parking lot before I'm walking in
Yeah.
the
I
joint. It was
I'm
just
sure
like,
it helped that anxiety.
totally, totally. A little reaction with the Benadryl
Mm.
because of the cytochrome,
Yep, the
effect.
P450 pathway.
But anyway, just kind of fast forward. I did that, and I just kind of kept doing that, and over the next 3 or 4 years, I probably went through 3 or 4 of those Paxes.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
say I was a heavy user, but it just they didn't last that long. They'd break, and
Yeah.
anyway, and then so I went back to I just keep like a little pipe above my door in my
Yeah.
shop, my office, which is where I am now. Um, and and then the COVID thing came around, and this is like, so now we're like year 6, 7 past all that, because
Oh,
it's been almost 8 years since I had that clinical trial. The whole
gosh.
COVID thing, and being
Mm.
older, and my lungs, and
How scary.
and I went to a baby shower for a buddy of mine's
Oh.
son, and met a guy there, and he was ranting and raving about
Ooh.
his ardent lift,
Yes.
his little
Yeah.
decarb machine, and he had all these. He had a morning and an afternoon and an
Mm.
evening and a weekend variety and
Yeah.
all this, and
Yeah.
my wife's kind of rolling her eyes. I was very intrigued.
Yeah.
So within a week or so, I went home and I got online. I ordered an ardent, and that kind of started. We went to a dispensary and bought little eights,
How fun.
and
Oh,
and then that's when I found your site.
oh,
And I don't know how I was
fun.
just googling around there, but I mean, you have so much information,
Oh, I'm so
and
glad you
I
found me.
I really wanted to get into the edible thing, and I just
Yeah.
thought, wow, this is something my wife could do as well. She has very bad rheumatoid arthritis
Oh,
and
yes.
bad lungs. She's had pulmonary embolism,
Mm,
um, just from lack of movement and things.
yeah.
So this was something she could do. So boom,
Right.
that was a hit.
Yes.
And so we did the decarb it, and then I put it
Yeah.
in like a shot glass and add. At that time, I was using avocado oil.
Ooh, yeah. Okay.
Avocado oil, and then run it again, and
Yeah.
filter it all out, and kind of do the math, and figured I'd get 75% of
Yeah.
whatever the rough uh, milligrams of THC were. So and then and that this was probably 2.5 years ago, maybe three,
Okay.
with the whole ardent thing.
Okay.
And I don't know how I started reading more about FECO.
Yeah.
And I have a friend who lives about halfway between. I live up in Northern California, about halfway where I live, and he's
Oh,
up in
okay.
Tahoe, Lake Tahoe, and um, has access to lots of cannabis.
Yeah.
It's like free. It's like garden. It's like
Yeah.
nothing out here anymore. Um, so I get these pretty large volumes of cannabis, and
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
more than I could really deal with. So I
Yeah.
started making FECO, and
Perfect.
then
Now, I'm just going to stop you just for a second for our listeners who are like, what is FECO? FECO is full extract cannabis oil, and it's very similar to Rick Simpson oil you had mentioned earlier, RSO. Both processes utilize a solvent to remove the cannabinoids from the plant material, and it leaves this black, thick, sticky substance at the end, which is essentially concentrated medicine. So just a little intro there for anyone who's listening and wondering about FECO. But having a ton of cannabis to make it is amazing because for a lot of people, they're discouraged because the yields are small. So talk a little bit more about where you went next.
So now I have all of this cannabis, different strains, some of it really high quality, some of it trim, some of it had some seeds in it, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And after I went through probably about $500 of ethanol, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So I bought a little
Perfect.
alcohol distiller, and I don't. That was a few $100, whatever.
But it
So
saves you in the long run, right?
yeah, and then I invested a
Yeah.
little bit more money. So as I've done this, I mean, this is just for personal use and
Yeah.
friends, but I probably made like 250 mils, 250 grams of yeah,
Wow, that is a
every
ton. You were an
a ton,
expert.
and it's but I'll get to this in a minute. Most of it I use in body butters now because you just can't
Oh,
consume that much, but you can put a
yeah.
lot on your skin if you do it right. But the so I invested in that, and a good filtration system.
Yeah.
They have these products that kind of do the whole thing for you, and
Hmm.
that just wasn't really me. I'm a little more, and I already had some lab equipment, beaker sets,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
magnetic stirrers, hot plates, and
It's
those types of
fun,
things.
isn't it? It's like a mad
It
science
is, yeah.
experiment
And
at
I
your
have a shop, and I
house.
have
Yeah,
space,
it's perfect. And it's like
so
a
I really
hobby.
got into that. And what I've learned over the last, since I've started doing it until now, is just the filtration and the
Oh,
length of time that the ethanol sits, the
yeah,
length of the soak, and of course the whole freezer thing, and
yeah.
trying to reduce those.
Do
Um,
you want to walk us through your process? Because I'm sure there are so many people who are like, tell me everything.
sure. So what I use, you could use smaller, but I use the 64-ounce, the large mason jars,
Yeah.
and I use those screens like you were growing mushrooms on the top, like a screen.
Okay.
And so everything goes in the freezer, the ethanol, and I put about 100 grams in each one of those 64-ounce jars, and that all goes in the freezer. And then after a few days, I'll pour the ethanol in those jars, and I'll do 3 jars. So I'll do 300 grams of flour at a pop, and it usually gets somewhere around almost 5 liters of alcohol, and the still holds about 4.
Okay.
But anyway, I've been doing quick ones. I do quick ones like 15
Hmm.
minutes in the freezer, and then I save those jars. And then when I drain it,
Mm-hmm.
strainer rather. I put the screen lid on the top,
Okay.
and then
Oh,
I
smart.
pour it into like over a yogurt bag and through a strainer, boom, and then after that, then I go and winterize it and Buckner filter it down to
Yeah.
like 10, do
Wow.
25 micron, and then a 10, and then I use some syringe filters. Uh,
Okay. Oh, I've never heard
and
of
I just
syringe
found that
filters.
the less that I get, I mean, you really can't. You could let it sit in there. It's hard to
Right.
quantify how much you're getting
Yeah.
because of the process. But you
Yeah.
just go by the color. Um, and for me, I take the time now and I do the quick one, and then I save those jars, and I'll run those again, and you almost get more the second time,
Interesting.
and it's much more sedative. That heavier that stuff. I
Oh,
don't know
yeah.
if it's just if that's the effect of the waxes and the fats and the
Yeah.
chlorophyll, or and the taste isn't quite as good. So I'll kind of go for that first cut, do that really quick,
Yep.
and then as a whole bunch of jars build up,
Yeah.
I'll do the second one. But yeah, and then so with that, and then I'll use a magnetic stir, so I'll take it down to
Oh,
about 80%,
fun.
and that's still
Yep.
that alcohol distiller about 80%, and then I'll pour it into a Pyrex and put it on a hot plate outside my
Yep.
shop, of course, where it's well ventilated. And I'll take that down all the way until all the alcohol's gone. And when all the alcohol's gone, it quits bubbling, then it'll start the decarb bubbles.
Yep.
And I'm still spinning it as I'm doing this. And then eventually it just gets perfect. It just gets like honey.
Ah,
There's not one. And then before it sets up, I'll keep it down to about 125 degrees by then. And then I'll pull it up in the syringes. And then
oh my
I'll label
gosh.
it, put it in bags. And then from those syringes, then I use it either mixing it with MCT oil and
Yep.
lecithin, or mostly now in the body butters. So I've been
Oh,
making
let's
body
talk a little
butters.
bit more about the body butters because that's the first time I've heard of FECO being used like that.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, trying to put, I suppose you could put powder or or you could strain it
Yeah.
out and filter it out. The old fashioned way with the ardent, which is good way. But you just can't get that much in there. It's just hard to get.
Exactly. Yeah. The potency.
So with a FECO, what I do is I melt the butters. I'll use like shea,
Oh,
mango, and cocoa, and I'll melt those in a water bath, and then over on the hot plate in a beaker, I'll take the oils. I use jojoba, baobab, sweet almond. Those are rosehip seed, calendula, arnica,
oh.
some of those, and I'll put that in a beaker and get it warm, and then heat up that FECO with a blow dryer. And
Yeah.
I can
Perfect.
get actually, and you don't even really realize it's on your skin after I put
Oh,
I mean, I don't know. It's just
it's
hard to.
perfect.
So I made a batch the other day, and I made 48 ounces. So that would
Wow.
make 12 cans, and I put 20 grams of FECO in there.
My goodness.
I'll send you a
Oh,
video to it, and it's white. Like when I
oh,
add the FECO
beautiful.
to the
Yeah.
oil, turns those golden oils, those jojoba oils, almost looking like root beer, like dark,
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
dark because of the FECO. And then of course, and it's so concentrated as well.
Yeah.
And then, but by the time it's all mixed with the butters, and I started whipping it, hours later, it's like white.
Oh, beautiful. Oh my gosh.
But that stuff's
Now,
the bomb with my wife and her friends. It's
I
great
was gonna
stuff.
say who uses it and for what?
I have really bad skin, so I have a compromised immune system, and I have a history. I've had bad skin cancers. I was in a swim team as a little kid in California. I'm pasty white from ancestries from Ireland, so I wasn't meant to be out here. And then farming. So my whole life I've been in the sun, and I've had many Mohs surgeries, squamous cell
Mm.
carcinomas, basal cell carcinomas. I haven't had any melanomas, knock on wood. Um, but I see a dermatologist every 3 months
Oh, good.
just to get checked and scanned.
Yeah.
And so
Yep.
I use probably 2 cans a week, eight
Wow.
ounces. I use those little
Yeah.
4 ounce tins. Um, so between my wife and I, we probably use 3 to 4 a week.
Does it help her with her rheumatoid arthritis as
Oh, no,
well?
with her arthritis. And
Mm.
sometimes I'll add pine or some things that aren't really good for my skin.
Yep.
So much a little bit hot, Yamato red flower oil, some things to heat it up in the winter a little bit,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
no, it's really good for her knees.
Oh, I'm so glad that it helps you both. And then you said she shares it with her friends as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
No,
that's so
she's
nice.
got I've got I've got a couple male friends that come and get 6 or 8 at a pop.
Mm.
I have a couple people that insist on paying for it, but I just give it away. Same thing with
Oh,
the little bottles of the oil,
that's
of
so
the
nice of
MCT oil.
you. Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, no, I've it's just that I started buying what I started doing with the MCT was I started making it a little bit stronger. So I'll use a full gram of FECO in a
Okay.
15 milliliter bottle and a half
Oh,
ounce
yeah.
bottle.
That is
So
strong.
yeah, so that's so, and then I use these droppers that have marks on them, quarter,
Perfect.
half, and 20 drops is a mill. So we're talking drops here for the average user here.
Yeah,
Five
just a
drops
few.
is
Yeah.
5 drops
Yeah.
is
No
so,
full
and of course,
dropper.
um, so that's kind of how I've been using it. I started, not going quite as heavy, but then I had
Right.
to consume more of it, and I didn't really like the taste. And one other thing I found is that is not decarbing it prior to making the
I
FECO.
heard you
It's so
mention that at the end with the hot plate. I'm super interested in that.
yeah, no. If you just do a little bit, just make sure though when you after you cook off. So after you distill and you get most
Yeah.
of your alcohol back and you've reclaimed it, then take that small amount and as if you were going to stick it in a rice cooker, but stick it in a
Yeah.
hot plate.
On the hot plate. Okay.
Yeah, but let's say you had maybe 50 mils in there, or
Mm-hmm.
let's say you had 100 mils of still a tincture with alcohol in it. Make sure your beaker's like 6 to 8 times that size, a little bit,
Okay.
because when it bubbles, it's going to bubble up high and sit there with a thermometer, an infrared thermometer, and watch it, watch it, watch it. And once all the alcohol's gone and you get it up over 200 degrees, 210, it's going to start bubbling, doing
Yep.
its decarb thing, and you can
Yeah.
literally watch it.
Oh,
So
cool.
it'll tell you, okay, this one took 225 or
Yep.
230, or it took this long, and it can take quite a while. So
Does
that
it stop
process,
bubbling when it's done?
yes,
Okay.
completely stop bubbling,
Oh,
but they're
cool.
aggressive bubbles.
Oh,
It's like foam. It's like yeah,
that's so cool though. I feel like I need to go get all these like science experiments
yeah. Because
and
when
get them
I
started.
decarbed the stuff first, it was just really hard.
Hmm.
The alcohol, the after the wash was just never clear, crystal clear.
Oh,
It
interesting.
should be like very light,
Yeah.
like a light beer.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So instead of a dark beer. So
Cool.
it didn't look like a Guinness, but it looked
Yeah.
like, a pale ale or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I
Oh my
decarbed it
gosh.
first.
It's
So, and
really
then
nice
also
of
the
you
other
to
thing was the
share
lecithin.
all your tips with us. That is
I've
like,
used three
I
different
love
types of
learning new things.
lecithin, and I think
Oh,
the liquid is just gnarly. It just the taste is just ugh.
molasses like,
It'll ruin the
yeah.
nicest tasting FECO you've ever had. So I still got a bottle of that, but I'm not using that anymore. The powder is good and it's pure. I found it leaves a little bit of it makes it a little bit milky, the residue,
Oh,
but it's good. And then the tablets. I actually like the tablets. I just squeeze those in on a
like a soft gel tablet?
yeah, exactly. Just
Okay,
take it
yeah.
just take it out of the
Like pill capsule thing, right?
yes, and
Okay.
put it in a little shot glass and put it on a coffee warmer
Mm-hmm.
and just let it melt, and then I suck it up in a syringe and do it that way. And I
Perfect.
think it's got some other stuff. It's got some olive oil and
Mm-hmm.
a little bit, but it's just cleaner and it doesn't taste bad.
That's a good
That's why.
tip for a lot of people because it liquid can really be a lot.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at, and I've been doing the oral
Amazing.
thing now for like I say, a couple 3 years. No
So how are
smoking.
you feeling today with cannabis in your life? Where are you at health-wise?
I take a pill, and this cancer came back. I got about
Mm.
4 years of remission after that trial I was telling you about,
Oh,
and I take a pill now twice a day, and thank God for my wife's insurance. Um, so I don't claim that cannabis is going to cure me or that it's cured me, but
right.
it's certainly um, helped me in too many ways to even to mention,
Yeah.
from going back to all the nausea pills that I had. I had a first, second, and a third degree types of nausea all the way up to Ativan and some bad stuff. And then
Yeah.
when I finished the treatment, they gave me SSRIs, antidepressants, and I didn't take them. I threw them out the window.
No.
And I'm kind of an anti-drug,
Yeah.
prescription guy.
Yeah.
Never any antibiotics, anything. I don't think I'm a weirdo that way, but I've seen some people and some family members that had some bad things from overdoing antibiotics in terms of their gut biota
Yeah.
and leading
Yeah.
to some other ailments. But um, for me, at this point, it's more probably about the mental stuff and the biggest hurdles and everything. It was in the cancer as I look back, and my journey has been the mental side of it. And it beats you up
Mm.
mentally to where you just can't do much. And then when you don't do a whole lot, you don't feel so good about yourself.
Yeah.
And that has been tough for me. So that's kind of and then my appetite. I'm really skinny. I have a hard time
Mm.
keeping weight on. So
Yeah.
sleep, my stomach issues and bowels with this medicine that I take, and just putting me in a better frame of mind. It's just that's
I
what
mean,
I
when you're going through something so difficult, to have something that can help your state of mind, I'm so happy that you have cannabis on this journey with you.
yeah, no, it's you really helped me, because otherwise I
Mhm.
don't know if I would have taken it this far, kept made like a hobby out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. You made a lifestyle out of it, and now you're helping other people as well, which to me, that just warms my heart. Like, that makes everything worth it. And I'm so glad that you're actually here sharing your story as well, because my hope is that it's going to reach even more people and help them. And I love what you said about, it might not cure my cancer, but it helps me feel better as I go through this. And I think that's a really important message for people listening here. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Sure. Yeah, no, I just to kind of keep going on that note, I've always told my doctors,
Oh,
one of
good. Will
my
you talk a
one of
little bit about that? Because people are afraid of
sure,
that.
yeah, one of my first oncologists, he's gone now. He was over in Eureka, over in Arcata, which is over in the Emerald Triangle, where you're the cannabis triangle. So uh he thought it was nuts, and I'm gonna get aspergillus, I'm gonna get some bad fungus, and anyway, um, but he retired, and I've got a new doctor, but I've always told my doctors there are some interactions. You certainly want to be upfront for sure. When I did finish the trial, I was also neutropenic, which
Mm.
means
Yeah.
very low white blood cell counts, and I was depressed about that. And when I told my local oncologist that, um, they set me up with they have a psychiatrist in the cancer institute, local cancer institute, Stanford guy, nice guy, and I told him, I just get tired in the afternoon. I don't have a lot of energy. Or what's he do? He prescribes me methamphetamine salts.
What?
No kidding. But it was very light amounts. I mean, he was very light amounts, but nonetheless, I took a little bit, and I was just like, this is not. I That lasted about a week. And then he gave me something else to help me, rely this and that. And but so one of your questions you asked me earlier was, where would you be without cannabis? And
Yeah.
I don't want to say I'd be a prescription drug addict, because that's not me, but um, I'm sure I would have taken some of those things, because I wouldn't have had this crutch to help me with to keep
Yeah.
me up.
Yeah.
And I just wonder what that would have done to my physical, the effect on my body, my bowels, my stomach, my bacteria, everything. So yeah, I know it's really helped me a lot.
Oh, I'm so glad. And thank you so much for sharing that with us. And like I said, I just really hope anybody who's listening, especially if you are going through cancer treatment, can just really listen to everything you're saying and take it to heart and know, like, there's something out there that might might help you just find that little piece of relief. And I just feel like everybody deserves that. And so I'm really thankful you're sharing your story here with us. And we just touched on one of the 4 questions I ask all my guests. Are you ready for the next 3?
Sure.
Awesome. So the first one is, what are you most proud of in your life to date?
On this particular day or point in my life, I would answer that by saying I'm most proud of my relationship with my wife.
That's
Been
so
with her
sweet.
for almost 35 years. And, if you asked me 10 years ago or 15, I may have said my kids or something like that. But we've been through a lot, and we've helped each other, and we've grown a lot. And I'm really proud to that. It's the most important thing in my life is my marriage and so that's a no-brainer.
Mm, that's beautiful. Now, I do ask guests a lot often, do you find that cannabis helps your relationship with your spouse?
Yeah, I'd say yes. It helps. I never really thought about it like that. It's something we do together.
Yeah.
I mean, we make things together. Um, we dose together in the evenings
Hmm.
at times. I usually do like twice a day. I do a
Yeah.
little bit in the morning, little micro in the morning, and it's more uplifting. It's not so much the product; it's just me in that time of the day.
Yeah.
And then I'll do the 4 or 5 o'clock thing, which is what she does, and then we have a nice dinner, and evenings are good, and we sleep good. And
Ah,
if you've never slept well, then you know the importance of good sleep. If you've never had a problem, then you probably take it for granted. And
absolutely.
but the sleep and the food for me is huge.
I bet. And then to be able to enjoy a meal together, enjoy dinner together, go to bed together, it's a beautiful thing. I'm so glad that you answered that. Thank you. Our other question is, if you could go back 10, 20, 30 years ago and give yourself a piece of cannabis related advice, what would it be?
Gosh, I mean, I wish I could go back, even back in the recreational day, and have learned about the edibles and had
Yeah.
to be able to have the ability to get really accurate dosing,
Yeah.
like down to the drop type of a thing, rather than make brownies or this or that, or all those experiences were never the same. You held your breath. You didn't know what the hell how you were going to feel. It was like go raid dad's freezer, mom and dad's freezer in the early 70s with their creek weed. And we never knew. But yeah, I didn't know that question was cannabis related. But
It
when
doesn't
you asked
have to
it,
be. I kind of sometimes I'll go that way. Do you have a different answer?
well, if it wasn't cannabis, I was just going to say, that to just, I wish I could have gone back and I didn't work quite so hard when I was younger.
Yeah.
I didn't beat my body up so hard, and I just slowed down.
Yeah.
As I look back, because a lot of those days and times with my kids and things, those are gone now. I'm at another phase of my life, and that's normal for people to feel that way. But
It's perfect advice too, cannabis related or not. Now, our very last question. If you could be remembered for just one thing in the cannabis space, what would it be?
that I was always trying new things, experimenting, and sharing, trying new things and sharing and with all my friends and family, and that somebody that was intelligent about this and not some pothead that just sits on his ass and doesn't do anything. But somebody that's a real person, that's very productive and has happy and healthy relationships and has been through a lot. And there's just try to break that stigma a little bit.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And you've done exactly that here today. I can't thank you enough for coming, sharing your story, sharing your wisdom. It's my goal that someone here listening is going to listen and really benefit from you being so open and brave. So thank you so much for coming on the show today. Any last words of wisdom for our listeners?
No, I think now with the blogs and things, like you have your community space, and that's where you can really learn a lot.
Yeah.
That's what I would encourage people that don't have a lot of experience before they just rush down to their local dispensary, and buy what's on the shelf or whatever the tender there. You need to get out and talk to people, and I think your forum is a great place for that.
Oh,
That's where I've learned a lot about cancer drugs and things over the years, and enter cautiously and have good experiences, and how important it is to underdose and go slow with edibles. It's just, I can't overstate that enough.
words of wisdom.
As
That
accurate
is,
as possible. That's why the FECO is good for me, because I can really get it accurate. I can
yeah.
do everything on a scale right down to the.
Well, thank you so much for sharing everything that you have. I appreciate your time. I wish you the best of luck on your journey, and thank you for sharing with us today.
Thank you, Emily. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Congratulations! You've finished another episode of the Well with Cannabis podcast and are one step closer to discovering how you too can live well with cannabis. Thank you for listening in today. We hope this episode has been a helpful and informative one. Please visit EmilyKyleNutrition.com for more information on today's show notes, guest information, recipes, and other resources. If you want more support and encouragement on your cannabis journey, please consider joining the private Well with Cannabis community. In this group, you can connect with like-minded individuals focused on improving their health and wellness through cannabis. Join the group today to continue your journey of wellness together at EmilyKyleNutrition.com.